Well, thank you all for coming again. Want to start it off with a shout out. So congratulations to Cam Hollabaugh, MAC Defensive Player of the Week. His transition to our program has been awesome. He continues to get better every single week. I think the recognition is outstanding, and definitely pleased with Coach Woods and the job he's doing developing that room. Now that's 2 different linebackers to be awarded MAC Defensive Player of the Week so far this season. I think the other thing that's special with the play of the defense and some of the individual efforts that we had on Saturday was, you could have argued Jay Crable was also deserving, with the way he played. So, extremely happy with some of the individual efforts that we're seeing from that side of the ball, and just a reflection of how they're growing within the defense and how hard those guys are playing. And I'm proud of how our team finished the game in the second half. Something that we've emphasized throughout the whole offseason was a run to win mentality, to emphasize how hard we play and how we'll finish games, and to run the ball. I think it was 147 yards on offense in the second half, and then to hold them to 60 yards rushing on defense, and finishing the game with the ball in our hands, getting the final first down to be able to close it out in victory is always a great feeling. So proud of how we're embracing that and that it's showing, and then as we move into this next week, the continued mindset is just that we're always striving to get better and not getting comfortable, and we're going to expect the best out of everyone that we play. Ball State's going to be a very strong opponent. They have a very experienced and really good head coach, Uremovich, and a very athletic and talented, dynamic quarterback. And I think they've shown they're fairly strong up front on the D-line. They were able to get to Auburn's quarterback 5 times in terms of sacks when they played at Auburn, which is really impressive. So they will be a very, very strong opponent. Obviously, playing them at their place is always going to be more challenging. And then we're just continuing to get better. I think we're going to get better at our coverage units. That's going to be a strong emphasis this week. We'll keep emphasizing the defensive trick plays because we've been hit on a few here and there. So we'll continue to press our guys to get better. All right, any questions?
Andrew Bowie at WAB. Coach, knowing that you have a bye week next week, is there any emphasis in practice to really tell the guys to let it loose this week and kind of give it everything they've got?
No, you're giving everything you got every week. That doesn't change. The nice thing knowing that you have the bye the next week is that there's some guys that are questionable that I think we feel better about getting them back following the bye. So I think our depth and some of our personnel groupings are going to get stronger as you come out of that bye week. But that doesn't change our mindset going to this one. We're always going to play hard. We're always going to strive to give our best effort regardless.
Coach, try to throw from the post. You already kind of mentioned Coach Uremovich. He's a new coach there, obviously, at Ball State. Mm-hmm. They lost big against 2 Power 4 teams to start the year, but they won their FCS game, and then were really competitive against a good UConn team.
Right.
Just what do you kind of make of their start to the year so far?
I think it's a reflection of how good of a coach he is, how their staff is. I think their transition was challenging, where they did lose a good amount to the portal as well. But it shows how their players are buying into what they're doing. And I think when you have an athletic, dynamic quarterback, that's always going to help on offense, and they definitely have that.
Coach, Owen Lipstree with the Post. Obviously, you just mentioned the athletic ability of their quarterback. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with it here as well with Parker Navarro. Mm-hmm. How crucial do you think it is for your defense to practice against Parker every week to be able to stop that?
I think it gives them an idea of that. The hard thing with an athletic quarterback is a lot of times you never really get a great feel for it until it's live. Because you're gonna blow things dead in the pocket sometimes. You're never really hitting your quarterbacks in practice, so you never really get a feel of the elusiveness of tackling a really dynamic and athletic quarterback. So it is different. Like, I think they have a feeling of it, but you never really get that full feel until it's really live bullets.
Cam Robertson with the Athens Messenger. Coach, after the Gardner-Webb game, you talked about how important it was that you guys were able to learn some lessons through that performance. Obviously, you get another game under your belt now. You've been able to review the tape. What do you think about how some of those lessons shine through in your performance against Bowling Green?
Yeah, just how important it is for us to play hard no matter what. I think that was a strong reflection with our defense of The effort and the energy was different, and just all around the importance of everyone's role within the program. The sideline energy wasn't great against Gardner Webb, and that was elevated when we were playing Bowling Green. And just how little things like that can impact the game.
Hey, Brian Marty Bannister, lead the league in first downs from an offensive standpoint. 22, 23, I think it was on the number on Saturday. How happy are you from that standpoint right now? It's allowing you, I think, to obviously be very good on third down, but that's kind of setting that up real nice for you right now, isn't it?
Well, I'd rather lead the league in points, personally. and,
We're close to that as well, too.
I know, and lead it in wins. That's the most important thing. I think it shows that we're being efficient. And I don't think we've sacrificed on explosive plays either, because you want to make sure you are still able to push the ball down the field and create explosives in the run game. But I think if you are getting a good amount of first downs, it is showing that you are being efficient and you're being good in early downs.
You talked about Jay Crable's play on Saturday and what Cam Hollabaugh did as well. So you've got some pretty good athletes on that side of the ball too. That's a big factor in what they're getting done right now, isn't it? Yeah,
I think if you have good team speed on that side, I think that's very impactful, and that's something I think that we do have. When you look at some of our times that our guys are able to run in practice, the GPS stuff that we have for our players is a great way to just evaluate so many different things in how you practice and how players can impact in ways that you may not see all the time. And it's a direct reflection that we do have a lot of guys that can run really well on that side of the ball.
Grant Kiefer, WAB, first MAC road game and first one since 50,000 fans at Rutgers, 100,000 fans at Ohio State. How's your approach changed? Whereas you're not playing against a really hostile environments, playing in hostile environments rather.
Yeah, that puts more of an emphasis on our own energy. Bringing our own juice with us and. Making sure that it goes both ways, right? If it's a large crowd, hostile environment, you want to not let that crowd affect you. And same thing, if for some reason there wasn't a big crowd, you don't want to let that affect you and your demeanor and your energy. So the focus, and I've talked about this a lot, right? Our focus is always on us, our energy, our effort, our execution than anything else.
Another week with Brack missing a kick. Is there any plans to change kicker, or what is that going to look like this week?
Yeah, right now we're looking at rolling with Dave. It's hard to hit the left upright, and I don't know why we keep hitting it so many times. And competition has made both those guys better, I think, in the long run. Going into last week, they competed all week, and they were both 100% throughout practice the entire week, and we evaluate how they were doing in pregame, and Brack was 100% in pregame, and I think Dave missed one or two, and so we made a decision just roll with the hot hand at the time. But we'll keep evaluating. But as of right now, that's the plan: is let Dave go.
And then you already kind of mentioned the coverage units. Just what are the conversations like with Blair? Going into another week, of action.
Yeah, and we're looking at some different personnel to put on there. We really try to do a good job of protecting our starters and not getting them on too many teams. So evaluating some of those guys that are, 2s, 3s, rotational guys, and, who can do a better job in some of those spots. And there's a lot that was just, execution things that guys were just not doing their job. So either they've got to be trained better, or we got to find somebody that's going to be more disciplined to do their job. And then there's some where kick placement wasn't great. There was a squib that was supposed to be deep right, and it was squibbed right down the middle, and that's not what the coverage units are expecting. So there's a combination of things that can lead to some poor coverage.
Coach, you talked about their talent up front on the defensive line, and then obviously the athleticism of their quarterback. But in your evaluation of Ball State, what have been some other things, whether it be personnel or schematically, that have kind of stuck out to you?
I think offensive schematics, they do a good job, do a good job showcasing an athletic quarterback. They're going to play with a bunch of tight ends, which a lot of teams don't do a ton of, so that can create some challenge, and they'll do a good amount of empty quarterback run, and that can be challenging for some of your fits. And then just having a kid that can scramble and still throws it well causes some issues. But I think they have a good running back, and and he does distribute the ball well. I think they have a bunch of receivers that all have a handful of catches, so it's not like there's just one specific person that they're targeting.
Any more questions, guys?
You already kind of mentioned like getting guys back after the bye week. Just do you have any updates on guys like Pius or Max or Jack, anything like that?
So only one I'll update on would be Max Rodarte. He'll be out for the season. So he had surgery last week and is doing really well. But yeah, so that one he will be done. The rest of them we're really expecting back within this week or right after the bye. So a lot of those guys are getting close.